So, all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So my name's Nancy Kirby. I'm the Executive Director at IncubatorWorks. And with me today, I have several of my team members. We've been doing these weekly Zoom calls since shortly after the CARES Act was passed, because there's so many questions about how it impacts small businesses and the entrepreneurs we serve. And every week, I keep saying this, I think, well, maybe it's the last time we do it, and then every week new guidance comes out. So what we'll be doing today is an overview of the Paycheck Protection Program and the latest updates. And then we will also talk about the reopening guidelines that small businesses have to meet, and in particular, phase 1 and the businesses that have been able to start to reopen. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And Barry, is it up?
Yep.
Okay, great. So Paycheck Protection Program is just too long to say, so we keep saying PPP. And this is updated as of May 15th. Sure, as we speak, there's probably going to be updates again tomorrow. Who knows? All right, so what we'll go over today, like I said, is the updates as of May 15th, rules for forgiveness, the forgiveness worksheets. That's part of what came out on May 15th. And then the latest on reopening requirements. And disclaimer, these are general education materials, and it's not meant to be specific accounting, legal, or professional advice. So refresher, the original round was 349 billion. Current round is 310 billion. The good thing is in the last round, 73% of the loans are under 50,000. Because you remember in the first round, the loans were very large and did not seem to be targeting the small businesses that should have been receiving the support. Local banks are accepting applications from new customers. It appears we got an email today from one bank that tomorrow's the last day that they'll be accepting new applications. So if you haven't applied, you want to apply right away. The loan terms for any amount that's not forgiven is a 2-year repayment at 1% interest. And one of the reasons this program is so powerful for small business is there's no collateral, no personal guarantee, and no credit check. And the loan amount is 2.5 times the average monthly payroll for 2019. Or if you're self-employed, it is your net income from your Schedule C prorated to come up to a 2.5 month average. So let's get right into forgiveness. To have the loan forgiven, it has to be used for 75% for payroll and then 25% for other allowable expenses. Included in payroll is gross payroll, group health insurance, retirement contributions, and this is the newest addition, state unemployment insurance. FICA or Social Security is not included in gross payroll. The limit of what can be included in the forgiveness amount is $100,000 determined on an annual basis. So that's during the 8-week forgiveness period, that comes out to $15,385. So it's all of these things during the 8-week period that starts from when you got the loan proceeds. There's also reduction in forgiveness if an employee's pay was reduced by more than 25% during the 8-week period. So that compared to what it was before, or compared to what it was in the first quarter of 2020. It's a complex calculation, more than what we're going to go through today. But it is on the SBA forgiveness worksheet that came out last week. So if that's your situation, you want to refer to that worksheet. So along with spending 75% of the loan on payroll, you also need to maintain your FTEs. And if there is a reduction in FTEs, then you have to reduce the forgiveness amount. There is a safe harbor for this. If the FTEs were reduced between February 15th and April 26th, and you get back to your full FTEs before June 30th, then you don't have to do the FTE reduction. And we'll be doing a spreadsheet later on that will get into those details so you can see how that impacts the calculation. FTEs are also added back for an employee if they were fired for cause, voluntarily resigned, or voluntarily requested and received a reduction in their hours. So that's saying an employer does not have to reduce their forgiveness if the reduction in FTEs was related to an employee's decision to reduce their employment hours or to remove themselves from employment. An important point in some frequently asked questions that came out just a short while ago is that if the employer made a good faith written offer to rehire an employee during the covered period and that was rejected by the employee, they still get to count that employee as an FTE. So many employers have had a problem getting employees to come back because of the extra enhanced unemployment. So that has been put into the rules to help the forgiveness calculation. Only funds spent by June 30th qualify for forgiveness. So that creates an issue of when payroll is earned compared to when payroll is paid. So there's new rules about that. And here's an example that really illustrates why this is important. So if an employer has a pay period that goes from June 14th to June 27th, and so that ends on a Sunday, and it's paid the following Friday, which would be July 3rd, then that payroll qualifies for the 8-week period of forgiveness and paid by June 30th on top of it. And that even will carry over to the following payroll in this example would be from June 28th to July 10th. That won't be paid until July 17th. But there are several days in there of payroll that was earned on before June 30th. So if that was in the 8-week period, then that portion of that payroll would be able to be counted. Okay, let's switch gears for a little while and go to the loan forgiveness for non-payroll expenses. So the other 25% of the loan would be to be forgiven needs to be spent on rent, utilities, or mortgage interest. So rent is real, and now we know it also includes personal property. So that could be a copier lease. For some businesses, it might be equipment lease. Utilities includes electricity, gas, water, phone, and internet access. And as I mentioned before, mortgage interest. Now, key date is for anything for rent or mortgage interest, it has to be under an agreement that was in place on or before February 15th. So the idea is that people are not going out and incurring new expenses and then paying for them with their forgiveness funds. So overall, key thing, only funds spent by June 30th qualify for forgiveness, with the exception of the payroll accrual. But for non-payroll costs, they must be paid during the 8-week covered period. Now for utility, well, let me back up here a minute. It must be paid during the 8-week covered period or incurred during the 8-week covered period and paid before the next regular billing date. So what it appears that this means is that I'll use the example of utilities. Utilities incurred during June are typically billed, they may be billed at the end of June, but not due until July. So to get forgiveness under PPP, you need to actually pay those utilities on or before June 30th, if that's the end of your 8-week period. Or I keep saying June 30th. I know for a lot of organizations that are getting their money now, June 30th is going to come before the end of the 8-week period. So we're looking to see, I expect there's going to be guidance on how those two dates are going to interplay, but whichever comes first, 8 weeks or June 30th is going to be the key date you're working with. Excuse me. So we've developed a worksheet which we shared last week. And let me just, and I'm going to share that with you now. If I can pull it up, let me get the spreadsheet up on my screen. There it is. And so if some of you have seen this before, bear with me. Okay, Barry, is the spreadsheet up?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so when you first look at this, it looks a little bit overwhelming, but it's really not too involved. It's more data collection, so you're seeing all the data. And this uses an example based on a real life PPP loan. The loan was received on April 16th, $49,851. So I'm looking at line 2 right now. The 75% requirement means that for full forgiveness of the loan, this business would need to pay $37,388 out in payroll and related costs. And the end date for this loan forgiveness is June 11th. So this business got their money early enough that they can do the 8 weeks before the June 30th. So the spreadsheet is built to accumulate the gross pay by week and develop the cumulative numbers, compare it to the PPP, and also accumulate the FTEs. So assuming that it took a while for this business to get back to full employment, we don't even get back to their full employment, which is 8 people, until May 15th. Gross pay is $4,730. At the end of that 8 weeks, assuming they continue at full pay, their gross pay would be $28,000. And this is a business that doesn't have retirement or group health. If they did have those things, we would be adding amounts in those columns. So at $28,000, the total here, compared to what they were supposed to spend, the 37, which is also in this other column, they have spent the 28 divided by the 75%. They've only, or excuse me, the total grant is 57% of the grant was spent, or loan, I say grant. The loan was spent on payroll. So at this point, that's the most that they could get forgiveness for. So assuming that we start with that 28,000, now we have to do the FTE calculation, which starts here on line 23. So the average FTEs during the 8-week period is 5.82. And that comes from this column in bright green over here. FTEs per pay date, and then the total and divided by 8. So the rules say that you use 40 hours as being full-time. So you take your total hours paid, divided by 40 hours to get your FTEs. So then if we go to the comparison number, the average FTEs during 2019. So that's calculated over here in columns P through S. And you do have to go through this on a weekly basis and calculate the FTEs for the test period of February 15th of 2019 through June 20th of 2019. And for this business, that comes out to 7.03 for that period. So we take the 5.82 for the 8 weeks, the 7.03 for the 2019 test period, and that says they were at 83% of their test FTEs going back a year. So you take that 83% times the total forgiveness that was possible, and that gives us the 23,489 is the potential forgiveness. So what's this alternative base period? So this is over here, and you have the option of using January 1st of 20 to 2/29/20, which is obviously just pre-COVID. And you go through the same calculation and you calculate the FTEs and then develop the average, which is 7.2. Come over here, and in this alternate FTE calculation, you go through, and here the percentage is 81%. Now this number right here isn't right because I keep playing with the sheet and I don't go back and change it. So what we do here, just to illustrate it, is we take the 81% times the allowable amount here, and that gives us 22,000. So to show how this worksheet is built and works is, let's say that right after he got the money, this person could go back to full employment. So let's just copy this and put this up here. And then over here, I've got to make these FTEs 8 for all of those. It doesn't like it there because I've got a formula in there. Okay. There we go. And look what happens to our forgiveness. So now we're up to 35,000. And so that's 71%. And actually what happens is this percentage here should never be more than 1. So we take this back to 1. And so the forgiveness stays the same. Part of this reason we did this worksheet was to help this business person decide, okay, I might not have all the work right now, but what's it going to cost me to bring people back? So that's how you use this to make some decisions. Plus you can use it to accumulate data as you go along. I'm going to go back and change everything back. I think I did, so good. All right, so for the 25% calculation, it's much simpler. In this case, this business had $5,000 in rent and $1,000 in utilities. So total allowable expenses were $6,000. To get the 25% up here, we've got that calculated up here, it's $12,000. So they're not going to get full forgiveness of that either. Now, there is some talk as we've gone along about allowing more expenses within the 25%, but we haven't seen anything yet. So at the end of the day, what's this mean? The original amount of the PPP was $49,851, and the payroll forgiveness that's been calculated is $23,489.97. The other forgiveness is $6,000 for the 25% allowed. So we have total forgiveness of $29,489.97. So that means that this business is going to have to repay $20,361 of the PPP. Still a good idea for them to have taken the money, because now they've got 2 years to pay it back at 1% interest. Their monthly loan payment will be $857.24. And I'm sure that no matter what, having the cash at this time with what we've been going through is an advantage to the business. So, questions about that spreadsheet? Okay, I'll stop share there and I'll go back to PowerPoint. Okay, let me share again. All right, am I back to the PowerPoint, Barry? Okay, thanks. All right, so the SBA Form 3508, which is what came out last week and had a lot of these new rules, includes a loan forgiveness calculation form, Schedule A for the payroll forgiveness analysis, and then also the worksheets that are going to have to be included for detail. It also notes what sort of documentation is going to be required for forgiveness. And kind of ironic because remember that this is going to the bank for forgiveness, not the SBA. So for payroll, they're going to require payroll registers and quarterly payroll reporting forms, canceled checks or account statements for employee health and retirement payments, and the backup for the FTE calculation, which I think the spreadsheet that we've got here is going to be sufficient backup, but stay tuned. For the non-payroll expenses, they're requiring quite a bit. For interest, they want the lender amortization schedules and canceled checks and account statements. For rent, they're going to want a copy of the lease agreement and canceled checks. And utilities, they'll be looking for invoices and canceled checks. So they want proof that you paid it. This is a scan from a portion of the SBA form, and it shows the level of detail they're going to be looking for payroll. So they're going, rather than the worksheet where we've got gross payroll by week, they're going to want gross payroll by employee name. The employee identifier is going to be the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, the total they were paid, and their average FTE. So for a full-time person, their average FTE would be 1. I checked, if you're using Paychex or ADP or another large third-party payroll provider, most of them have already built this. I was looking at our own ADP service provider this morning, and the report form is in there. So it's good to know what you need to have, and then you'll be able to check what they give you. But with the third-party payroll providers, they will be doing a lot of this work for you. So no word yet on required documentation for forgiveness for the self-employed individuals. So that's going to be very, very important. We don't know what they're going to demand, but the main thing that we've been telling all self-employed people is to put that PPP money in their business account and then write checks to themselves for their draw replacement. So that will be a start. Don't know what else they could require when it's replacing self-employment income. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Barry. Barry, do you want me to continue to share screen? Are you ready to share screen?
I can share screen.
Okay. Did I get a chance to, I should stop and ask if there's any questions. Sorry. Any questions on the PPP? Then we'll switch over to reopening.
Just a quick question. Do I need to write myself an actual check, or can I just, you think I can just take money from my business checking and put it into my personal account?
I think you're okay doing that transfer as long as you make sure you've got, you have the record in your account.
Right. Okay.
The only reason you might not want to do that is then you would have to show your personal account to the banker.
True.
You probably already have it, but that
Right.
might be the only reason.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, then Barry, I will stop sharing screen and it's your turn.
All right. Give me just a second.
I wouldn't spend too much time on the phases yet today, Barry, because we did cover that last week.
Sure.
And the whole thing with the phases is we don't know. It keeps changing every day, so the best thing to do is to check with whatever the governor's latest daily press release is.
Can you guys see that okay? Okay. So I'm going to go through the phases really quick. So phase one, which has been approved at least here in the southern tier as well as Western New York. So it was approved to go forward last week on Friday the 15th, and then I believe it was the 20th. So as far as Western New York. So we're in that phase right now. All of these individuals that are listed under phase one are operating or can be operating. Phase two is professional services, and there's a lot of interest on what is going to be included in this, but thus far, this is what is included. Phase three is more of the fitness centers and that sort of restaurants, dining in, that sort of thing is going to be opening up. And then phase four is more of the arts, so museums and those types of businesses will be opening up. So what is reopening your business under these guidelines? So what does that mean? So there are some resources out there right now that are going to allow you to check in. So if you don't know what phase you're supposed to be opening, you have a couple different opportunities. So New York State, and hopefully this is going to pop up here. Can you all see that okay? Okay. So New York State has provided links to when you're going to be reopening. I would say this website or this link is where you're going to want to be going most. So if you feel like you're in a phase two business, when phase two is supposed to open in your county, you're going to want to go here. This will give you the opportunity to look and see what is included in phase two. As you can see, phase one is kind of outlined on the side. Some of the areas that you're going to want to look at, there is a New York Forward Business Reopen lookup tool. This is a helpful tool if you know what your NAICS code is. If you do not know what your NAICS code is, it's kind of a rabbit hole because you're going to be searching and searching and searching for hours to try to find out what that is. So I would not recommend going to that link unless you know what your NAICS code is off the top of your head. So, and I will get back into the PowerPoint.
Barry, I just have to add that if you don't know your NAICS code, you can find it online. It's NAICS. Or if you have a problem, then you can check with us because we'll help you figure out where you fall in it because it is confusing.
It has the potential to take a half hour to an hour just to sort it all out. So if you know it, that's great. If not, they give you enough detail in this first hyperlink to be able to get you to where you need to go. So based on what I've been hearing with other businesses, it sounds like small businesses that feel like they're in a phase two feel like they're going to be set to open around June 1st. We don't have any detail on that as of yet, but that is kind of what most individuals are planning on at this point. So some keys for developing your reopening strategy. So thinking about what your staff is going to be doing, customers, your vendors, the space of your facility. So how many square feet do you have and what are you allowed to have in there as far as your codes? Basically what they're saying right now as far as space is that if you had a space that allotted for 100 people to be in it, they want you to open with 50 people. So you're going to want to start doing those calculations and seeing what that looks like. Social etiquette, cleaning and sanitizing. So under each of these categories, you're going to want to have a plan on how you're managing your staff, your customers, your vendors. You're going to want to have documentation and policy updates for each of those. And then you're going to want to have a strategy for how you're going to communicate to each of those groups. And let me share this too. Okay. So this is kind of what we have done as a one-pager. It outlines kind of what our business, our opening plan is going to be. And you can see the strategy that we utilized was very similar to what I had outlined as far as keys. And that is mainly because that's what our business deals with. So we go through that whole process and we kind of outline what the key tools are going to be for that. And then under each of those, we have related policies that are highlighted. And then we've started to put together what the communication plan might be. Let's see. Okay. Ooh. Sorry about that. Okay. So one of the key learnings, so I have been developing the plans for our business. We have 2 incubators, one in Allegheny County and one in Steuben County. So we've had to put plans together for each of those. So some of the key learnings that I've found as I've been going through that is that you need to determine what PPE your staff is going to need, your customers are going to need, how you intend to implement that, as well as how you maintain inventory. So a good example for PPE for this would be masks. So if you're requiring your staff to wear masks or your customers to wear masks, you've got to have a way of ordering and keeping an inventory of masks to be able to hand out to people. Another key learning was health screening. So a requirement from the state is that you will provide a health screening. So the only 2 measures that they allow, one is for you to be taking temperature of everybody that walks into the facility. And the other is a daily questionnaire. And they basically give you the questions to ask. And it's kind of, they fill out the questionnaire saying that they attest that they have not been in contact with somebody that has COVID. They do not have a fever or any symptoms. So there's 3 key measures for that, and I'll go through them. But basically, you have to do that on a daily basis for everybody that's walking through the facility. So, and I can tell you, we're doing both. So we've put a strategy together for a questionnaire. And we also are currently measuring people's temperature here at this facility. I would say both have their benefits. Measuring temperature, it adds an additional amount of PPE that you're going to have on hand. So at our station, we have communication, we have sanitizer solution, we have alcohol prep pads, we have the thermometer itself, which has to be calibrated like once a week. And then we also have gloves that we have to worry about and sizes for those gloves. So each strategy is going to come with its own challenges. Just make sure that you're looking into all of those before you implement one. I would say that the daily questionnaire is probably the easiest, but we haven't implemented that one as of yet. So another piece is you're going to need to develop a cleaning and sanitizing strategy that has to be logged daily. And everything that I'm seeing as I'm going through the safety plans is that if you cleaned a certain amount of time, if you had an area that was being cleaned once a day, the state is actually going to be looking for you to be cleaning it twice a day. Or if you only cleaned it once a week, they're going to have a minimum requirement of at least once a day. So there'll be more information on that as I go through as well. But If you have a cleaning company or janitorial staff and you haven't opened yet, right now is a great time to engage them and talk about putting together a cleaning plan. If you don't have a cleaning service and you don't feel like this is something that you're capable of doing and maintaining, now is a good time to start looking at cleaning services that may be able to help you. And then the other piece is using the summary guidelines. So the state provides for your industry group. So that main area that says highlights what industry you're in during the phases will also have a summary guidelines of what industry you're under. So there is a set of guidelines, there's a plan template, and there is a form that asserts that you have read the guidelines basically, and you've come up with a plan to manage that. So this is what the plan looks like. So for a business, you're going to go in and you're basically going to have to go through and have this plan set up. You can print it off or you can do it through Adobe. You have the ability to type in and everything. So, but I basically summarized the whole plan, but that's kind of what you're dealing with. It's like 6 pages, and to put one together, it would take a day just to get everything done. So, okay. So this is the piece that you're going to have to do. It's under each area, but this is the affirmation document that you're going to have to go through. Like I said, it is industry specific because we're only in phase 1. It's only listing the phase 1 industries. But once we get more detail, it'll list them all out. But this is basically your document affirming that you have read the guidelines and you have a safety plan in place. So, and I will also show you the cleaning policies do not have to be really detailed. So this is a cleaning plan that we have for our Alfred facility. And can you guys see that okay? Okay. So basically what we're doing in our facility is because we have different shifts that are coming in, we're cleaning before 11 a.m., after 2, and then again after 5 when the shifts leave. So, and basically what we've outlined, because each of our tenant groups are going to be responsible for their own spaces, we have outward facing door handles that we're going to be responsible for sanitizing 3 times a day at this facility. So basically, these groups are going to have to, the cleaning group that we have is going to have to come in and check the box and sign. So we have documentation that somebody was in, somebody did it, and we know who did it so that we can go back to them if there's any issues. And that's really what you're looking for when you're doing a cleaning plan. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. That was really it for me.
Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
As you can see, there's a lot of information coming at us from all different directions. And so what we're working hard to do is to be a place that's providing information that small business and entrepreneurs need to respond to these times and these challenges. So, we're here to help keep the most of the PPP money in our region that we can through the forgiveness rules. And we're here to provide needed information and updates on reopening. And very soon we're going to be announcing a program called Rebuild. Many of you know we we've been running a business accelerator program called Co-Starters, which helps entrepreneurs develop their ideas and uses a form of the business model canvas to grow their businesses. So Co-Starters, which is a national curriculum funded by the Kauffman Foundation in part, has developed a new curriculum called Rebuild, which is focused on businesses that are challenged, as so many are, by the COVID situation. So it will be a program to help those businesses assess where they are, determine what steps they need to make, what they can do to change their business model, and where they can go from here. So we'll be launching that in the middle of June. So stay tuned and pay. It'll be on our social media pages and our website. So we'll be getting that information out. Fortunately, since we can do it virtually, we can offer it across the 4 counties that we serve. And we're excited about the opportunity. So that's it for today. Any final questions? Barry, looks like you have a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to ask what types of businesses that we have on today. If you guys wanted to put it in the chat or just wanted to say, this is what my business is, it helps us tailor this a little bit more too as we do it.
Wow. Okay. So, now hearing no other questions, I'll say thank you for your time and your consideration, and we'll look forward to being with you again next Thursday. Have a great week, Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.